Assalamu alaikum, معكم زين الزياني. I'm a صاحبة Grow Learning Space. Hi everyone, this is Zain Al-Zayani. I'm the owner of Grow Learning Space. And today we're going to talk to you about a very nice introduction to Scratch, which is a visual programming software that makes you produce really awesome projects. اليوم اللي بنتكلم عنه هو تطبيق اسمه Scratch. طبعا موجود على الانترنت، فالواحد يدش عليه من الكمبيوتر أو من اللابتوب. هاي تطبيق يخلي الواحد يعني يصنع ويبتكر أشياء جدا جميلة. وإن شاء الله على هال40 دقيقة اللي بتي تقريبا برويكم كم من project نسوي مع بعض. So we're going to talk about a couple of projects, 3 to be more specific. So enjoy the next 40 minutes, and this video is brought to you by Mabarra Alkhalifia Foundation in Bahrain. طبعا هاي الفيديو بشراكة مع Mabarra Alkhalifia بالبحرين. So the first thing we're going to ask is, what is programming? شنو هي البرمجة? There are 2 definitions. There's a boring definition, which is, it is basically the process of designing and building a computer program to accomplish a specific result. And then the cool definition is, coding is basically, or programming is, you get to create awesome projects. Now, why should I learn programming? There are a couple of reasons. Number 1, it improves your logic. Number 2, it improves problem solving. Number 3, it enhances your attention to detail. And number 4, it's really fun. And I know you guys might have a wrong idea about programming or coding, but trust me, you don't have to be a geek to love coding. So what we're going to do today is we're actually going to talk about Scratch, or work on Scratch. And Scratch is basically a free programmable toolkit, and it allows you to create really cool projects, games, animated stories, and interactive art. We're at the Scratch website, so you need to just open up a browser, you need an internet connection, and then just type in scratch.mit.edu. فطبعا الحين نبي ندش على صفحة سكراتش، وبس نحتاج نحط هاي العنوان في البراوزر. طبعا لازم نسوي لنا حساب على سكراتش، فنضغط على join scratch ونبتدي بس نحط معلوماتنا. So the first thing we're going to do is to click on join Scratch and enter the information that they request so that we can set up an account. I've already created one, so I'm just going to tap on sign in, and I'm just going to sign in. All right. So once you've signed in, this is what you will be seeing. You're going to have some welcome tutorials, some featured projects, and other things. Now, what I like about Scratch is that it has an online community, a very large online community, where you get inspired and see lots of projects and learn more about the code and how they've done certain things. There are a lot of games on there. Scratch integrates with a lot of other material and equipment. So it's really a very interesting and very robust platform. الحلو في سكراتش طبعا انه هو عنده وايد مستخدمين حق سكراتش، فالحلو فيه انه يحطون مشاريعهم مثل ما تشوفونهم هني، فالواحد يقدر يتعلم ويشوف الكود وشون برمجوا الالعاب وشون برمجوا الانيميشنز عشان يتعلمون اكثر. فاول شيء بنسويه, the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to click on create. And this is going to open up a new project for us. فأول شيء سوينا طبعا ضغطنا على create وبيفتح لنا a new project. I'm just going to remove my picture. All right. So basically you have this is basically called the staging area, or the stage, where you get to create the code or the visual code here, and you can get this character to do certain functions for you. So the whole point of Scratch is, you have these characters that you can design or choose from, and then you can code them to do certain functions and movements. So these characters are called sprites. So if I'm just going to click here, trash this, so it's going to be blank, and then I'm going to say I want to add a new sprite. So the nice thing is that it gives you all these different options, and it also gives you the capability of uploading your own character or sprite. So I'm just going to choose under animals, I'm just going to choose this puppy. Alright, so طبعا هني نقدر احنا نختار characters معينة. مجرد نضغط على هاي الزر هني وبعدين نروح choose sprite. We can also customize the sprite and then also uploading our very own. فطبعا أنا اخترت puppy الحين بنقدر نشوف شنو نقدر نسوي من ناحية الباكجراوند. So now we have our sprite selected. We can also start working on background. So let's just go to backgrounds right here. نضغط على background. We'll say choose backdrop. Okay, so we can choose any of these backdrops. We can also upload our own. What I'm going to choose is this castle here. فطبعا أنا اخترت هني هاي المنظر. ممكن الواحد إنه تسوون أبلود حق اللي عندكم أو تختارون من اللي موجود. طبعا حق المثال الحين احنا اخترنا الكاركتر أو السبرايت والباكدروب من اللي موجود. So just for the sake of the example, we've chosen a puppy and a backdrop that was already included in Scratch. Okay, so now we want to start controlling the puppy and making it go up, down, and everything. So if you notice here, there's an X and there's a Y. What this means is these are actually the movements of whatever character we have. So if you see, if I move this up, can you see what happened to the numbers? So let's say if I say here, if I type 0, 0, and this puppy is exactly in the center of the backdrop. If I say on the x-axis 100, sorry, and on the y 0, what's going to happen is it's going to move this way. So the x-axis is actually horizontal and the y-axis is actually vertical. So if I say minus 50, it's going to go down. If I say 60, it's going to go up. If I say minus 100, it's going to go there. And it just keeps moving. If you see the numbers here, they keep changing as I move the puppy. So what I want to do now is I want to have this puppy start from the castle and move all the way to the front of the picture. Okay, so now that we know how the X and Y kind of work, we can go here and then we have all these different movement bricks that we could just drag into the stage area. So this is the stage and this is where the code for this puppy will go. So if we just choose move 10 steps and I tap it, can you see what's happening to the puppy here? It's actually moving 10 steps. Let's say I go move 100 steps. What happens? It moves a lot further. Let's say move 50 steps, it's going to move 50 steps. Let's say I wanted to turn. So if I just drag this block and then stick it here so that they're stuck together, so they click together, and then I say turn and it starts to turn. I don't want it to move out of the view, but you get what I mean. Okay, so let's just and for you to remove it, it's very easy. You just unclick it and then just dump it back into this list of bricks. So let's just move this guy back to, so I want him to go back to his normal position, which is not this, which is 90 degrees. The direction also navigates your puppy or your character, in different areas. I want to make the puppy smaller, so I can actually control the size here, and this is at 100. So if I make him at 50, he's gonna be a lot smaller, and he can start from there. Okay, so let's get rid of this code. Now, if I want the puppy to move to always start from this point, and then when I run the code, I want the puppy to reach here first and then come here. Okay, so I want him to start here, then come to this point, and then come to this point. Now, if you see, it's already kind of showing me the X and Y axis. So let's say I want the puppy to come to -17, -83. So I just go to this code, which says go to X -17 and Y -83. So it's already put this code for us, or these coordinates in the code, which is perfect. So if I click move him here and I click on this code, what happens? The puppy comes to this point. Now, this is not the first point I want him to come. I want him to come to this point. So this point specifically is 40 -21. But then if I go to these blocks here, or these bricks, I see that it's already, the coordinates are already in there for me. So I'm just going to drag this and put it on top. So the code will read to go to this position first and then to this position. So let's start again. So I'm going to move him here and then, okay, so he's moved here and then he's moved here. Okay. Now, another option or another type of movement is to use the glide function. So let's remove this. Now we know how we can control the puppy through the go-to function. Now we're going to use the glide function. You see how he moved? Let's see that again. So he moved from that point to this point. Now I want him to move to this point first, if you guys remember. So let me just put him here, and then you will see the coordinates change. Now let's see that again. So moved there first, then there. Now, I think he's going a little fast. So if I change this to 2, let's see what happens. Let's move him back to this point. He's a little bit slower, and then he moves and comes to the second point. Now, I need to, instead of always bringing him to that point, I want him to always start at that point. So I go to Events, and I click, and I select this code, which says whenever this flag is clicked, which is basically when we want the code to start, this is what I want it to do. So if I click Go, the code is working. But I always want him to start at that point. Let's use this function here, go to. So I want him to start at that point and then glide to this point and then glide to this point. Now let's start again and see. Perfect. Now, let's say I dump him here and then I hit the green flag. What's going to happen? Again, he's going to start from that point, glide, and then glide to this point. Now, so now we kind of understand that there's movement and a go-to function that is all based on coordinates and on specific locations. Now I want the puppy to actually increase in size as he gets closer, because he can't start that small and then end up being this small. So when we can go to looks, and then you see this code here, change size. What we can do is just drag it here. So he's going to start there at this size. When he comes to this point here, I want him to change size by 15. And then when he reaches this point, I want him to change size again by 20. Now let's run the code and see. So now we've learned basic movement in Scratch. Now, by all means, you can go ahead and start playing around with the numbers, playing around with the characters, with the backdrop, just to experiment a little bit more. Okay, so now that we've figured out how to get this puppy to start from the beginning of the castle, or where the castle is, and end up right about here, let's just try that again. Okay, we want to add some sound effects. الحين عرفنا شلون نسوي البرمجة حق البابي إنه يطلع من القلعة ويوصل لهني، والحين نبي نزيد صوت حق البابي. So we're going to go to the sound blocks here, and the dog sound is already included. Let me just get rid of my video back. We could click here and say choose a sound. So if we go to animals, we can find, okay, so let's choose this sound. Okay, let's get rid of this. So let's just call it puppy bark. Right, and now it's saved. So we go back to the code, and if you see here, puppy bark is what we just saved. So we can say when it starts, he goes to that position, he barks, he glides, he changes size, he glides again, he changes size. So let's try and see what happens. There we go. But did you notice, now let me run the green flag again and see what happens to the size of the dog. It keeps on increasing. Now if you remember, when we started, the size was at 50%. I want the dog, I'm just going to add one more code here to have the puppy always start at that size. So I'm just going to go looks, and then we're going to say set size to 50%. And then again, and he goes back to the same size. All right. So now we kind of know how this just basic code works in terms of movement and sound. So now we're going to code our own game. This is a simple game, and I'm just going to show it to you and how it works, and then I'll show you how to actually code it. Now again, it's very basic, so it's a lot of fun to make, and then once we finish all the steps, you can start working on it on your own and manipulating it and changing all the different characters and elements. So this is basically a little fish that wants to go to his mama fish or his papa fish, and there's a shark that's swimming up and down in between them. So let me just hit the green flag, and then I'm moving the fish back and forth with the arrow buttons on the keyboard, and then if I touch the shark, we hear that sound. And then if I restart the game and I reach the little fish, I help the little fish reach his mama fish, then you hear that victory sound. All right, so let's get started with this code. I'm just going to create a new project. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this sprite, and we are going to add the shark. So I'm going to go to sprite, and I'm going to search for the shark sprite. All right, so what I want to code the shark to do is to always start from the center, and I want the shark to go up and down non-stop. So we'll start with when the green flag is clicked, I want the shark to go to the middle position, which is actually it's 0, 0. So we're just going to go 0, 0. So let's check. All right. I also think he's too big, so I want him to decrease in size. So I'm going to say change to, let's say, 50%. Let's see how that goes. I think maybe a little smaller. So 40%. Okay. And then I want him to keep moving until he reaches the end of the screen. So what this means is I'm going to say I want him to move 10 steps. And then if on edge, I want him to bounce. I'm going to tell the shark to do that forever. What that means is instead of me clicking over and over again, the shark will use this code and repeat it over and over again until he reaches the end, and then he'll flip. So if I run it, so that's what's happening. So he's moving 10 steps and he keeps on moving 10 steps over and over and over and over again, and if it hits the edge, it bounces back. Now the shark is going in the wrong direction. I want him to go up and down and not left and right. So we can do this in several ways, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this block here and say point in the direction of here, 0. So let's run this again. Oops, that's what happens. It's meant to be 0. All right, now let's try again. There we go. So now we have the shark going up and down forever. So the next character that we saw in the game was the little fish. So I think we're done with the shark for now. So let's go to choose another sprite. So we're going to click on sprite and then we can type fish. Now don't forget, like, you could do any sorts of fish, any sorts of character, any sorts of game, but I've just decided to have this underwater theme. Drag when the green flag is clicked, and then I'm going to go to the go to code because I always want the fish to start at this end, which is -177 and -5, which are the coordinates that I see here. So let me just run the code. Yeah, so that's where it starts, and he's also a little big. So if you guys remember from our previous example with the puppy, I'm just going to say set size to 50. Let's just, no, not 500, 50. Oops. Yeah, that's about right, but I still want him to move back a little bit further. So let's just say -200. Okay. So now we have this first part of the code. Now I want to be able to code the fish to say that whenever I click on the right button, I want him to move forward, and whenever I click on the left button, I want him to move back. So if you go to the events blocks, there's this code here, and it says when a certain key is pressed. So I'm going to click on when the right arrow is pressed. I'm going to go to move 10 steps, and then I'll do the same thing. When the left arrow is pressed, I'm going to say move -10 steps. So let's just try it out now and see. So I'm tapping on the right button and it's moving, and then I'm tapping on the left button and it's moving back. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to code this shark and tell it that when it touches this fish, the game is over. So we need to go to the shark code, which we can see when we click on the shark here. And you also, another hint is when you see the shark image in the back here, that means you're coding that specific character. So since we're saying here that he's moving up and down forever, I also need him to be checking to see this whole time that if he touches the fish, then the game is over. So what we do is we say, so when this shark touches the fish, something has to happen. So what we could say is we could play a sound. So to do the sound, we'll just go to sound and we'll search for let's search for, okay, so that's the sound we want, lose. So we're going to say play the sound lose. So what code should we include here? So we're going to go to control and we'll say if this shark touches the fish, and let's drag it in here, then you need to play this sound. Now let's test it out and see. So I'm going to start moving the fish, and if it touches, then the code works. All right, let's stop that. Okay, now we need to introduce the third character. Let me move myself over here. To introduce the third character, which is the mama fish. So we're going to go back to add a sprite, choose the sprite, and then we're going to look for the fish. And then this fish, we're just going to position right here. And we want it to be slightly bigger than the baby fish. So again, we're going to go to when the green flag is clicked. We're going to say we want the fish right about there. And then we also want their size to be slightly bigger. So let's say 120%. Yeah. Okay, so its nose is kind of sticking out. Let's just move it a little bit to the back, a little bit more. So we're manipulating the x-axis. There we go. So if we start by moving the little fish. Okay, so one thing if you notice is that it's moving too slow and the shark is moving a little fast. So there's no way for me to actually pass the shark. So the way we can fix that is I can make this little fish movement more than 10. So I could say, for example, 20 and then back 20. And then you'll see him moving a little bit not fast enough. Let's try 30 steps and see how that works. Yeah. Or what we could do is make the shark slower. So let's go back to the shark, and instead of having him move 10 steps, we'll have him move 5 steps. So you'll see he'll be moving a little bit slower, and it's almost impossible to win this game, which is good. But again, let's go back to, we'll just make it 40, just for the sake of this example. Let me try again. There we go. So now what we want to do is we want to add a code that says when the small fish touches the big fish, a victory sound is made or heard, and then the game is done. So to do that, what we have to do is we select when the green flag is clicked again. And then we go to control and we say we wait until something happens, and then we play a certain sound. Now that something is basically found in the sensing blocks, and we want to say that when this little fish touches, when the big fish touches the little fish, we play a sound. Now let's just go and search for a victory sound. Triumph. Okay, so we're going to go with when, and then that's the sound that's going to play. So let's try this game again. So I'm going to move the little fish. Okay, I think I chose the wrong sound code. Let's just go back, and it's actually start sound. Okay, let's try that again. There we go. And if we try again, and we hit the shark, then the game is over. Now one more thing we need to do is to change the background. So we're going to go to backdrop, choose a backdrop, and then we're just going to choose underwater, which we already have as a category right here, and we're going to choose. So now let's just hit the green flag again, move the fish, So you have your first game. It was I hope you found it very easy. There's a lot you can do with manipulating the code. You can add 2 other sharks and have 3 sharks moving simultaneously. That also makes it very challenging. But you can see now that the concept of Scratch is really where you just have different characters, different backgrounds, different functions and rules, and each character can act, and interact with the other characters and sprites in a really fun and cool way. Now, of course, you're going to want to save your project, and we're just calling it underwater challenge. And then you're just going to hit save. And then if you just click on the folder here, you're actually going to see all the other projects that you have created, and you can always share them or delete them, and just keep adding more and more and just keep exploring. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to make a slightly more challenging game. You all know the game Pong, and I'm just going to show you quickly what it will look like. So we have a paddle that I'm controlling with the mouse, and then the ball bounces. The score is changing by 1, as you can see, every time the ball bounces off the paddle, and then the game ends when the ball hits the red line. So I'm just going to take you through the steps on how to make this game. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to click a new project. Let's get rid of the sprite, and then we're going to go to backgrounds and select the tunnel background, which is this one. And then we're going to first start with the ball sprite. So you could have any ball really. You could even have an apple or a basketball or any kind of sprite, but I'm just going to go with this ball for now. And the first thing we're going to do is we are going to select when the green flag is clicked. We want the ball to move in a very random manner. So instead of it going, in the same direction, I'm going to say I want it to move 15 degrees. And then I also want it to, turn 15 degrees. And then I want it to move 10 steps. And then if it reaches the end, I want it to bounce. But I want this to be done on a continuous basis. So if you remember from the previous example, we used the forever function. So I'm just gonna drag these 2 codes here, link back the forever to the turn 15 degrees. And then if I hit the green flag, you get to see how the ball is behaving. So it's turning and then also moving. And then if it hits the edge, it bounces back. So now the ball is sort of doing what we want it to do. Now we're gonna work on the second sprite. And basically we need to put a paddle that I can move with the mouse or using the mouse. So I'm just going to search for paddle, and we actually have one right here. And then obviously you can always customize the paddle, change its colors by just going through the costumes, and you could work on different colors and function and features, but I'm just going to stick to the green one here. So what I want this to do is select when the green flag is clicked, and then this paddle, really its purpose is just to move side by side or side to side, controlled by the mouse. So what I wanted to do is just go to set X to this. So the X, if you remember, is the x-axis. So I want to set the position of x, or the number or the value of x, to be set by the mouse. So if we go to, if you see here this function here, if I just drag it and drop it inside the value. I want this to be done on a continuous basis, so I'm just going to drop the forever function here. And then if I click on the green flag, you can see that now the paddle is being moved in this direction. Like, I can't move it up, it's just side by side or side to side using the mouse. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want the ball to bounce off the paddle. Now it's not doing that, but we want to code it to say that when you touch the paddle, you need to bounce. So we need to go to the ball code, and then we go to when the green flag is clicked. And then I'm going to say if the ball touches the paddle, then something has to happen. So first we'll do the if. So we're going to say if the ball touches the paddle, we want it to turn and then we want it to move. So we want it to just change direction and move at the same time. But I don't want it to always move in the same 15 degrees. I want to be able to have it just go to a random angle. So we're going to say, let's pick it up between 170 and 190 degrees. And then I want it to move 15 steps. And then this is going to be done continuously, so forever. So now just to read the code again, we're saying that when this is clicked, if the ball touches the paddle, then the ball has to bounce or turn and then move 15 steps, and it does that forever. So let's just run the code again. And let's try. So now we have the paddle moving, and now it's bouncing off the ball, and it's moving into a random direction. Great. Now we want to add an area here, or a line, that when the ball touches, so goes beyond the paddle, touches the red line, the game is over. So for that we need to introduce a new sprite, and I'm just going to search for line. So we get this red line, and again you can customize this to any color you want. I'm just sticking to the line that we get from scratch. And now we're going to code it to say when the green flag is clicked, you want this red line to go to this position, which is 100 to 90. So we always want it in that position. So do you want it to go to 1 and minus 168? Let's just test that. Okay. And then you want it to continuously check that if the ball touches the line, the game is over. So what we need to do here is to get another forever function and say if this red line touches the ball, so we're going to go to sensing and say touch the ball, then we want, there's a code here called stop all, then we want it to just end the game. And then we forgot just this green flag is clicked block. So let's try now. So it's bouncing, and if I leave it, the game ends. Okay, so the only thing left for us to do for this game is to add a score, and for that we're going to go to the variables blocks here. We're going to type on or click on the make a variable and then type in score. Press OK, and then you'll see that score has already appeared here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the ball code and say that when the green flag is clicked, I want the score to be set to 0. Let me just put this here. So I want the score to be set to 0, and then every time the ball touches the paddle, to increase that score by 1. So I'm going to go just to this code here, drag it, and then change the score by 1. So let's just try. the code and see if it works. So I'm removing the paddle. And if you see, the score has already changed. So the game is working perfectly. So now I hope you enjoyed these 2 projects that we worked on. Or actually we had a total of 3 projects where we were working on just, basic animation and movement. And then we worked on the shark game or the underwater game. And now this is a bit more complex game, which is the Pong game. And these are all games that you can publish and just share a link with your friends and your family and just enjoy it. So before we end this project, I'm just going to make sure that we save it. Pong game. And then we're just going to click on save. And then obviously when you just click on the folders here, you'll get to see all your different projects. And you can even just click on, share this one, and this will be published to the community of Scratch. And then you can also share it with other people. So I hope you enjoyed the 3 projects that we just went through. And I really hope you enjoy Scratch and start using it and just get creative. And thank you for tuning in. شكرا لمتابعتكم، إن شاء الله استمتعتوا بهذا البرنامج. وطبعا شكر خاص للمبرة الخليفية حق هالفرصة. Thank you again to المبرة الخليفية Foundation for this opportunity. Keep learning, keep being inspired.